Or Patty Malone. You know, Scott, you want to tell us a little bit about Dr. Patty?
Dr. Patty, she's a communications expert and consults individuals and businesses on communication strategies. Dr. Patty also teaches at Cal State Fullerton. Dr. Patty, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. We're happy to have you here live in our studio.
And you guys are so much fun.
Thank you. Well, gosh, you know what? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Yes. I've been in communication for over 20 years. All of my careers have been communication oriented. I'm currently a professor, as you said. I teach a number of different communication courses. I study dysfunctional communication, such as backstabbing and envy, and I actually have my dissertation and thesis on those topics are being put into a book right now and are currently in an editor's hands.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And in addition, I have been a TV news anchor, so I worked in television news for 10 years. And I've also done corporate training for different training organizations such as Dale Carnegie, and now I'm doing that on my own.
In every organization, and I mean from relationships to organizations from every size. Can you imagine how much money it costs? I can't even imagine. And then how much relationships it costs.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the bad things about when you have communication breakdowns. It not only wastes time and money, it damages relationships, it leads to conflict, it decreases job satisfaction, it decreases productivity, opportunities. It's just almost immeasurable when you start looking at the way it snowballs like that.
Well, you know, when we talk about communications within a corporation, within a corporate entity, one of the things that's interesting is that what one person means, another person hears differently. Am I right?
Yes, you are. In fact, there's a great quote. I know you believe you understand what you think I said. However, what you heard is not what I meant.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Well, you see, in this organization, it's real simple. Lorraine just says, no, you said it wrong.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's taken a lot of effort on Lorraine's part and my part for us to be a couple and to be in business. And one of the seminal moments in our life came when Lorraine and I were having a husband and wife conflict, and the person working with us at the time, a pastor, she says, stop, just stop, flag on the play. That's it. Jim, over here on that neutral corner. Lorraine, over on that neutral corner. Okay, Jim, you're not going to do this, and this. Lorraine, you're going to do this, and this. And really what it boiled down to is each of us taking different responsibilities and allowing the other person to have authority over that. Now the next question is how to take that and disseminate that corporate-wide. Am I right?
Well, one thing that's really important, that's key to all of this dysfunctional misunderstanding, is people don't really listen. We think we're listening. We've become experts at pretending to listen. And we've frequently got this other conversation going on in our head. We're judging people. We're waiting for the moment when we can jump in and express our opinion or dispute what they were saying. But people want to be heard. They feel like that they're not understood, they're not listened to. That's why people start raising their voices. In an argument, it's people feel like they're not being heard. And I've got one great example of this. There was this one person I was working with at one point, and I know we can all relate to this. It was somebody, when you saw her coming, you would duck into your office because she was somebody who just talk, but didn't really say anything, and people just wanted to get away from her. So this one day I saw her coming, ducked into my office. She followed me in and started doing her talking, and I thought, there's got to be a better way to deal with this than to just keep ducking to the office. So I stood there and I really listened to her. I didn't get into my head about when she's going to shut up, blah, blah, blah. I actually listened to her. I got her. I didn't say a word. I just listened and listened. And it went on and on for maybe 15, 20 minutes. But she never did that to me again. Ever. She still did it to other people. But people want to be listened to. They really want to be heard and gotten. And in organizations, I think people feel that they're not heard. They're not asked about their opinion before changes are made in the organization, or if they are, they give feedback and then it's not followed. So it's really important to listen to people.
I think that's critical. And for every type of relationship, from as you mentioned, listening to people, because right now we're in the age of not hierarchy, we're in the age of teams.
Yes. We work in teams, and we need to be able to cooperate and know what each other are doing. So we need to communicate not only one-on-one, but across teams, departments, hierarchical levels, generations, and all of that you will find in organizations. It's not just one-on-one, that's part of it, but there's so many people and there's so many different contexts involved that we need to learn how to communicate clearly and effective across all of those to produce the best results.
And we started our show with talking about passion and balance between family and business, and that listening is so powerful, and communication to live your passion and to have the balance with family and business.
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
wow.
dear. Yes, dear. Yeah. Oh, I guess I can actually do more than just say yes, dear.
So I want to ask you, what kinds of tips would you have for people trying to balance business and the family?
Well, one thing is I think that you need to set boundaries, and you've already pretty much discussed that. For example, with the email, it's so easy, like you said, to just get sucked into that computer. You actually need to have different times set aside these days. I do the same thing. I write personal time into my calendar. And not only is it a matter of with family, because there's also a lot of single people out there, maybe people without children, they can easily get sucked into just being a workaholic all the time. We all need to do that. We all need to take time for ourselves so that we don't burn out. Burning out leads to distress, and that's another aspect of it too. If you're not communicating, that can lead to stress, and we all know what can happen if we get too stressed out. Physical problems, emotional problems. Worst case scenario, people go postal, they flip out and hurt people on the job or even kill people. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Ooh, that's scary.
But it is, but that can happen. It's like we really need to be conscious of staying centered and not getting frantic. And when we do feel overwhelmed, I think one thing that's good to do is literally just force ourselves to stop. Just whatever we're doing, just like, wow, I've got way too much going on. I'm not spending enough family time. I'm not spending enough time with myself. I need to just take a step back and take a breath and literally force yourself to do nothing. Sit on a couch, do nothing. Look at the ocean, just do nothing. Just back down.
Yes. Really, really important. You know what's interesting is that we were having a team meeting not too long ago, and I was telling our team here in our office that when I was at lunch, I heard an employee tell another employee that, can you believe so-and-so?
An employee of some other company.
An employee of another company, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I can tell that they were employees because they had a name thing on their
identification
shirt. Identification badge. And so what happened is that one employee told the other one, I didn't appreciate the way that so and so reacted. Or asked me to do something when they could have done it themselves. And I thought, wow, they did not stop and communicate and say, hey, Dr. Patty, you asked me to do this, but, I only have so many hours. Is there a reason why you're not able to do it? I mean, communicate.
Yes.
And so that's what I was telling our team, that we really need honest, open communication with each other to make it so that I am living in my passion and I don't have to worry about these issues.
One of the things that's interesting about the whole communication thing and living your passion is that if you don't tell anybody what your passion and your goals are, probably won't get there.
That's right.
You got to communicate it.
That's absolutely true. You need to make your list or whatever you're coming up with, and that makes you accountable for it too. When you tell other people and you can enroll them in what you're doing and you can get a lot of support, and they will hold you accountable to where you are on the path of meeting your goals.
Oh, yeah. Boy, my staff has no trouble telling me when I'm off.
Your team.
I'm like Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect. I think people really run into trouble when they start assuming things instead of asking, particularly with their spouse, and particularly when it comes to living one's passion and goals. Because as a married couple, we have different goals and aspirations. Now, what I'd like to do, we're about ready to go into a break, but before we go, I'd like you to stay with us, if you wouldn't mind, for this next segment, and we'll finish up on some of this. Today, we've been talking about living your passion.
During the break, we talked about a couple of different things. One of the things we talked about is you. It's talking about you versus I.
Yes. It's always good to take responsibility for your feelings and not to blame it on somebody else. And sometimes, especially when we're having poor communication or things are escalating, it's very easy to fall into that, well, you did this, you always do that, you made me feel. Well, nobody makes us feel anything. We make ourselves feel. So we don't want to be blaming other people. We want to take responsibility. And in communication, the best way to do that is by making I statements. I feel hurt. I feel angry. Not you made me angry.
Or not that I feel hurt because you made me angry.
Exactly. Because that's the same thing. That's still doing that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just a clever way of putting it.
Right.
One of the things that's interesting is how valuable this could be if you work with a boss. Because if you make you statements, you're attacking your boss.
Yeah,
That's
you don't
how your
want
boss
to do
that. No, not a good thing.
No.
However, if you're making I statements, like for instance, I'm feeling like my work is not producing the results we really want. I'm feeling frustrated that the project is behind schedule. I'm feeling like less than valued because you just moved my desk into the little closet in the corner. Whatever it is, it's a better way of communicating, particularly if you're having to communicate up the ladder of command.
That's right. And if you do make a statement like that, the best thing to do next is be quiet. Stop talking. Give them a chance to process it and respond.
And that ties right into interpretation.
Absolutely. You've got to watch the interpretation. That's what prompts those knee-jerk reactions. Somebody says something and we misinterpret it. We think, that guy's a jerk, or that person has it in for me. But we don't know that. We don't know if they just had some disaster happen at home or something else on the job. So we shouldn't just automatically assume that it's aimed at us and take it personally. We need to reinterpret that. We have no control over how that person is communicating, but we do have control over how we're responding and communicating. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this person is just having a bad day. Maybe now's not a good time to talk about this.
You know what,
Scott, I told you, it was just I was having a bad day.
Well, one of the things that I like to do is when somebody is coming across aggressive, I like to ask them, Are you having a bad day, or are you upset about something that I did? And they'll say, well, no, I'm sorry, this and this happened, or I'm having a personal issue. But I give them an opportunity to respond, but I have no problem asking. I know that there are certain people that have a problem asking, are you upset? Are you having a bad day, or what's going on?
And it's really important to ask questions. That's one of the things about how we can communicate clearly and make sure that we're really understanding what the other person means to get what they're saying. We need to ask questions, especially for clarification and to find out what the other person's thinking so we don't misinterpret what's going on. We need to get inside their heads, and we can only do that by asking them.
I love that. Very, 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 very important. The other thing is tone of voice.
Yes. Yeah, how things are said, not just the content of what's said, but the way people say it. We want to make sure, too, that our body language and what we're saying is congruent, that they match. How confusing is it when we're sending mixed messages? If somebody says, well, they're acting kind of like silent, they're not talking to you, and you say, well, is there anything wrong? And they're like, no. And they've got their arms crossed and they're frowning. It's, what does that mean? We want to make sure that we match, that we're congruent, so that we're expressing non-verbally what we're saying verbally, so people aren't confused.
And so what if the person who is receiving that aggression and they don't like conflict, what can they do?
The person who doesn't like conflict?
Yes.
I think most people don't really like conflict per se. I think the key is to reinterpret it. Again, to not take everything as a conflict or as a personal attack. Sometimes conflict can actually be very productive. It doesn't have to be destructive. You can build stronger relationships with conflict. You can come up with better solutions to problems in organizations. You can do better decision making. If you've got people who are conflicting and debating different ideas, it can be a positive thing.
One thing that's interesting is a technique that I have learned many, many years ago, and that is if somebody's really upset and they're like yelling at you and you're not like in the boat with them being upset. They're just like really bent out of shape or whatever it is. Sometimes it helps to simply repeat back to them what they're saying so that they know they're being listened to.
Right.
And I don't mean like mimic them, like, I'm talking about you actually repeat the content of the message in such a way that they understood. I had, when I worked at another company a gazillion years ago, this guy was so angry. He was taking these big, heavy 50-pound boards and just tossing them up on the loading dock. And I was, he was yelling at people and everybody was like running away from him. And I walked up to him and I said, what's going on? And he started yelling at me and I started repeating what he was saying. And then he started to slow down and he said it again and I repeated it. And he slowed down a little more, and then he finally told me exactly what was going on. So I went and I got the 39-cent part that he needed. I handed it to him, and I said, it's on the house. Sorry that you had such a bad day. You need more help loading these boards back into your van? And he goes, yes, please.
So he calmed down.
That's good.
Yeah, and he was just he really got frustrated that he couldn't get the message out there. He didn't know what he needed, but he knew that there was something missing, and it turned out to be this little piece, this little part that was like no big deal.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we repeat what people are saying to us so they can hear that they've been heard, that helps. And this is also true when you're setting your goals. For instance, if I'm talking with Lorraine, she and I were actually talking. It was a dialogue. So I repeated what she was saying. She was repeating what I was saying. I mean, if we think about when we're having good communication, what goes on, that's really instructive of those kinds of communications that we want to create around our goals.
Yes, it definitely is. It's active listening. When you're participating in it, it's not passive listening where you're just sitting there taking in information or somebody's machine gunning information at you. You're participating in it, making sure that you're on the same page, you're understanding each other, and you especially want that with the goal setting.
And you know what? Somebody who is in a supervisory role, I always say, ask the person, do you understand the project, and please explain it to me how you understand it, and explain it back. And in your example where they didn't, it cost them $300 million, that mistake, if they would have repeated it back, that wouldn't have happened.
Right. That's right. And that's a very good technique, especially if you're giving instructions or training somebody to make sure, because a lot of times people just nod and say, yeah, I got it, and they really didn't. And that's a good way to be accountable, hold them accountable.
That's the smart money rule, definitely.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, we've got listeners that are listening all across the country, business owners. They're thinking, hey, I need to improve the communication channels in my business. How can you help them?
Well, I can help them by assessing what the problem is, first discussing with them via either over online or on the phone what the issue is, how they perceive the problem, what they would like to see the end result be, and then we can do an assessment to zero in on exactly where the breakdowns are, where the miscommunications are, where the communication failures are, and then come up with a plan to correct those.
Great. And how can people learn more and contact you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.drpattymalone.com. However, the doctor's not spelled out, so it's actually drpattymalone.com.
Great. Dr. Patty, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patty. And, Scott, it's real simple. Our communication issues are all your fault. I just wanted to be real clear about that.
Blame Mighty Mouse. I see how
that's it. Oh, now it's Mighty Mouse. Are you going to get a Wall Street Journal in that name, too? Oh, that's next. Thank you for listening to Smart Money Talk.